put themselves in this position.
So again, I go back to this offensive rework, if you will, right? Like to start the season, frankly, guys, it was like Mike Brown wants to run what he ran in Sacramento. He wants Cat to be DeMontis Sabonis. That's not really how he operates. And there was this friction, yeah, to your point, I'm gonna use your word, through the course of the regular season. And I just think it's two great basketball minds trying to figure out how to work together, right, in a team setting. And so honestly, I think it was sort of healthy. As I reflect on it, they had an embarrassing loss in Cleveland. Is that where they went to bed? And it prompted like these team conversations and whatever, whatever. And even Mike Brown has said it through the course of the season. You know, great teams, which he's been a part of, obviously from his Warriors days. He's like, great teams have adversity, and adversity can be very healthy. And so I think when you look at Karl Anthony Towns and Mike Brown in particular, they had to find a way to have a meeting of the minds. Now, this iteration of this team, in terms of the offense that they're playing now, which Mike credits in terms of being collaborative, I know assistant coach Chris Jenn has had a big hand in it, suits Cat perfectly. And even Mike is like, if it's working, let's roll with it and make it better. And so I think that's where we are. I just love, again, the accountability one to another, how hard these guys are playing, how focused they've been. And yes, Cat and the offense is the thing that is written in lights, the name in the marquee right now. But also defensively, they really have continued to hold their own as well.
So with all that evolution you've mentioned, is this who you believe the Knicks are, not just for the playoffs, but sustainably moving forward as a franchise? Have the Knicks unlocked who they're going to be?
It's a great question, Fitz. I think for the calendar season 2026, yes, I can answer that question emphatically. Now, will the organization be satisfied with getting to a finals, or does this thing have to culminate in ultimately being the last team standing for them to truly believe that this group can stay together and move forward? I don't have those answers. But what I do know is when I look at what constitutes a champion in this league statistically in terms of a top 10 offense, a top 12 defense, a centerpiece all-star, maybe two all-stars, if you will, and I look at the numbers of what this team has done in the postseason, which are even more gaudy than what they were able to achieve in the regular season. By all metrics, this team is a legitimate contender and should be one of the last two teams standing and could be the last.
I think that is a very realistic possibility, but one reason why they're here is OG Anunoby. I mean, it is crazy to see his regular season averages, the way that he's leveled up his play in the postseason, and I think it's fair to say he's been the most important piece for this Knicks team in the postseason. But what is the latest that you're hearing on his health and availability?
Well, the last we heard yesterday for media availability is that he was still not doing non-contact, but obviously you guys got the tweet there. He is involved in practice, but it is still non-contact at this point. And here's my deal. I don't want to hear this rest versus rest thing. Everybody shut up. Like, that's just so stupid. I don't want to hear it. I am old enough to remember in the calendar year 2025, when this team fell apart down the stretch of a postseason. And so I'm going to stop yelling now. And so the rest, to me, obviously for OG Anunoby as a centerpiece, is incredibly beneficial, the opportunity for him to become whole, right? But beyond that, we're talking about offense that you stumbled into in your first round series. You mean to tell me you don't actually want to take advantage of time to get into the next layers of that offense if it has been gifted to you? Also, you mean to tell me that you would choose not to sweep versus watching your potential next opponent go to a 7-round series? Like, who is complaining about this rest? Everybody hush. And I get it. I love Josh. Josh is my guy. He's the one that was like, la, 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 la. He's sort of an energizer. He wants to play with momentum. But you know who else said, I'd rather keep playing and I want to roll with momentum? Nick Nurse. And we saw how that panned out.
All right.
Hey, it's not 4, it's 5:30. It's more prime time, and she deserves that with the Knicks on their way to the conference final. How are you?
I'm good, guys. How are y'all?
Waiting. And we got a long wait. It was nice to actually hear from some Knicks today, but just weigh in. Rest versus rust. Is this too long, just right? I mean, how do you feel about the 8-9 days they're going to have to wait before they play their first game of the conference final?
You know, Don, I'm actually really confident in this group. I think that the way, it's not just, yes, the the fruit of the shift in mindset is the way that they're playing, but I think the shift in mindset also will get them through this opportunity to sort of regroup. So I think the time is going to be fine, and I think as we continue to look at what's happening in the counterpart series, I just don't see a world where at the level at which they're playing now, they would come into a game one and be tripped up by an exhausted team. Like I'm having a really hard time seeing that based on where they seem to be in this postseason.
Monica, do you think after watching the series, and that's really all, we're now all engaged in Cavs Pistons, do you feel like this looks like it might go 7 because of how back and forth it's been? Are you feeling that?
Yeah, that's where I am. I think it was cool to see James Harden kind of come alive in the postseason in the last outing, but I expect the Pistons to respond. And I think what is unique in this series compared to the first series for the Pistons is I think their role guys are starting to figure it out. Like Jalen Brunson hasn't necessarily been his all-star self, but they are starting to figure out something that has allowed them to be far more productive than they were versus the Magic. So I think that one's going to go 7. I see that one going the distance.
Did you have any surprise about last weekend and how games 3 and 4 went, or at that point were you feeling good that this team was just going to roll through and do it in 4?
I mean, I talked to y'all before that. 3 was still a surprise to me, but by the time we got to 4, I was like, all right, the exhaustion has absolutely won. In addition to the Knicks are refusing to take their foot off of the gas, which was the most impressive part to me. So, yeah, I mean, I was at the Disney upfronts last night, and it was really cool. And just talking, Knicks fans are all over the city, just everybody's various perspectives. And what's adorable and very charming and loyal, if I might add, is people acknowledging where they were or what they did through the 4-game series and their unwillingness to break it as we move into the next round. Like some Knicks fans I know are diehard Knicks fans didn't get a chance to watch the first 3 games, and they feel like that's what they need to do to make this team win, which I laughed at. But I'm really excited for this group. I think when you read about championship cultures and dynasties and such, and they can't quite put their finger on what it is, it feels like there's a piece of that unfolding with this squad.
It's been so special just to not only win 7 straight, Monica, but to win in the fashion that they're doing it. And I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be too tripped up by the long layoff. But it's not a lack of concentration. It is a long time not to play. So it could affect you in the first couple of quarters, right? And maybe that's enough to maybe slip up and lose a game. I'm not saying that it's going to affect them being able to move forward, but you played. Is there a practice? Is there a scrimmage? Is there anything that can get you prepared physically for the longest layoff of your season?
But I think, all right, so what do we have? If we base future outcome based on the past, it took them a minute to warm up a little bit in game 1 versus Atlanta, and that was a little bit of a chunk of time there. But I just think, I can't explain it, but I just feel like the professionalism in terms of where these guys are, understanding what the opportunity is in front of them, the accountability that I think they're developing to one another, and these are all the intangible things, but also very practically, like this offense is something that even the next opponent has not necessarily seen at this clip yet. And the offense has served this group so incredibly well, and we're not even talking about what they're doing defensively yet. And so I think you get after it, you study the film. I do think there's probably a couple of hard practices in there this week, but obviously the goal is to make sure everybody's healthy to move into the next round. And then you let the first half of the first game get you back into the flow of things, which I think for them, because of the flow state, it seems to be the very popular term right now, but because of the collective team flow state, I just don't see it getting tricky until they get out of the next round. And perhaps I'm naive, but that's where I am.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. The regular season ended on a Sunday. Game 1 was on a Saturday. That's a whole week that they had, right? And that game 1, if you remember, Jalen Brunson couldn't miss in the first quarter. He had an unreal start. Mm-hmm. It's, the game finished the way they wanted to. They won the game, but, they kind of took their foot off the gas. They had to learn from that, of course, but they were fine a week off. Then they had, was it 4 days off after the first round into the second round? And it kind of same thing, right? They had a really, really good game 1. I don't know. And the other part is it's funny is compared to last year's run is they've blown teams out to a point where a lot of times their starters aren't even playing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So the load really, they have not had a workload at all throughout this playoff so far. Do you think that actually, like, while we worry about rust and all that stuff, do you think it might be a benefit to the fact that whoever they're playing might go to 6 or 7 games? Both teams already had 7-game series in the previous rounds, so they're going to have, whichever team comes out of this, high mileage. Like, that has to be a benefit in some way, doesn't it?
I don't think if for any team ever going into an opportunity, they would have scripted it as give us 4 series of 7 games of buzzer beaters. Like, I don't think anybody will say that ever. Right? And so, yeah, of course, we have this week off, and so our minds have the opportunity to wander. But especially in light of the OG situation, right? Like, this rest is so incredibly timely. Now, let's zoom all the way out, right? And you did a great job of looking at the calendar between each series so far, Han, right? But let's go back to last year. Do you think if this team could have had 4 days off last year, things would have, or 5 days off last year, things might have panned out differently? I do. And so for me, I've seen it go the other way, and it didn't quite work. So now I'm firmly willing and leaning into the opportunity to try it in a form that looks most advantageous on paper. The thing about shaking rust versus rest, for me, is that is a maturity thing. And by all indications, outside of those 2 one-point losses, this team has not only taken another level in its play and the way they've shown up for one another, but in their accountability and in their maturity. And that, to me, is what moves you through this next round and allows you to optimize this opportunity as opposed to it becoming something that is ultimately a detriment.
It's interesting, though, Monica. I go back. Alan and I have been going back and forth a little bit on this. Like, sometimes I'm not sure how much I agree that it's a maturity thing, much as sometimes I'm not talking about the team like going to sleep because they have a break. I'm talking about just momentum slowing down because you're just in rhythm. Like, you were a D1 athlete at a top level school. Like, is there anything to that? Just like, not because you go to sleep, but just the fact that you're playing every other day and then you stop just can sort of naturally throw off a rhythm, or is that not a thing?
I think it totally has an opportunity to be a thing, Rosenberg, but I would offer back to you, are you talking then about rhythm, or do we need to analyze it as inertia, right? I just think, you know who said he wants to keep playing? Nick Nurse, after his team beat Boston. And you see what that looks like, okay? So I think just because a thing is, shout out to Black Panther, because this was the line that Shuri offered to the King. Just because something works well does not mean it cannot be improved, right? And so this opportunity is not saying that they weren't in a hella rhythm, but imagine if you have the opportunity to tweak a little bit. How much better could it then sound if you have an opportunity to really lock in and optimize, right? Now, if we get to the next round and we all like, dang, that week off was the dagger, then fine, we will have lived it. But right now, as I'm looking at it, I don't think that we should be overly enamored with how good they look. They have looked fantastic. I take nothing from that. But to me, because they continue to raise the bar, particularly in the series versus the Sixers, I think there might even be, and I said this on the postgame show, Han heard me, I think the best might even be yet to come if you really give them an opportunity to show up and to really tweak what they're doing.
And have 6 days to work on it, right? Like, that's the other thing, is you don't have an opponent yet, so it's not like you can work on scouting stuff. So why not add some layers to this offense that you quote-unquote stumbled upon that no one else has seen, as you mentioned. So I'm with you on it. It is going to be, of course, the proof will be in what we see when they play, but I don't think it's something to be worried about, because in the playoffs you take advantage of any type of rest and recovery, especially with OG Anunoby, who, they said did practice, didn't participate in live action stuff like scrimmaging and whatnot. Do you consider that precautionary with him, and do you feel like he'll be there for game 1?
You know what? I can't answer that, honestly, but I think that I want them to take whatever measures they think they need to be in a position when the clock strikes game time for real. And to me, game 1 might not be that versus a team that has come off of a 7-game series and likely, depending on the schedule, similar to Philly, will have had 1 day to prepare for the next game. So to me, again, y'all, like, we're so enamored with this year, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be. And this run has been literally historic by all numbers and by what we've all witnessed. But, like, I'm old enough to remember OG Anunoby falling apart in the postseason. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, give me all the precaution. Like, give me all the precaution so that dude is available when he's needed most.
Talking to Monica McNutt, is her weekly spot here on Don, Hahn, and Rosenberg. Is there one player in this run that has surprised you?
I think it's Mikal, just because there was so much swarming around him and he has just come and hooped on both sides of the basketball. But honestly, Don, I can make the argument for a bunch of different guys. Like, I think Cat has really optimized his level. And whether you credit that to the new offense stumbling into his mindset, blah, 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 like, he's really turned over a leaf and embodied everything that all of the OGs and Hall of Famers were kind of having these sidebar conversations that got caught all over TV cameras with him all season in terms of him being the X factor. But I also would say, to Han's point, I think Jalen has been better than we've seen in the postseason. Typically, it takes him a little second to warm up, maybe the first game, maybe the first 2 games. That's not been the case for him in the postseason either, right? Like, Josh continues just to be steady. I think one of the things that I'm looking forward to as they continue to progress through this postseason, I think Landry Shamet finding himself is going to be something that we're going to look back on as this thing continues to move forward, because he's a guy that offers you a little bit more size and always offers you the effort on both sides of the basketball. And if he can maintain the rhythm, what do you have, 15, and I forget what he had in the game after that, but if he can maintain his rhythm as far as three-point shooting, you know he's going to bring the effort on the defensive side.
Yeah, he had 12 points in the clinching game, too, knocked down a couple of threes.
There you go.
Which, yeah, you're right, that was good to see. So you were at the Upfront. What was that like?
So much fun. So here's the other thing. Our boy Jalen Brunson pulled up, outstanding, because they swept. And I'm like, we have a relationship. His sister and mom were there, and one of his business partners. But we're near each other. And, of course, guys, he's a magnet for all of these celebrities that we've watched all of our lives. And somehow I become the unofficial photographer, but it also leads me to an opportunity to get this really dope picture with Whoopi Goldberg and Quinta Brunson and, like, all of these people that I've watched and enjoyed on television.
There you go. Go ahead. Take it all in.
So, I mean, it was great. Like, we had such a good time.
Wait, are Quinta and Jalen related?
So I was present for this conversation in which she admits that she has deeply thought about this, and she's checking in with Sandra, Jalen's mom, about where their Brunson name is from compared to where her name is Brunson's from. Her dad's name, her dad also goes by Rick Brunson, but he was Derek Brunson, and of course, Rick Brunson that we know is actually Eric Brunson. So I don't know if they're actually connected, but they all went with it.
By the way, neither of these guys should be named Rick Brunson.
They just chose.
That's what I just learned. Neither of them are Richard or Rick, or just Eric and Derek.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
It was great.
That is so funny. Good times.
It was really great. Cooper Flag was there. We chopped it up a little bit about his rookie season and his awards. Shaq, we were saying hello. We take a picture. He's like, "You ready to go to the finals?" I was like, "All right, big Shaq, from your words to God's ears." Like, I love that. I love the way that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Cody Rhodes?
Great,
I saw Cody was there.
We did see Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was the one person that Jalen got super excited to go.
I figured.
Definitely geeked out. Yeah.
he's a wrestling guy. So yeah, it was fantastic. It was a really good night.
Well, enjoy it. We've got a long run ahead of us, so we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Or maybe earlier, who knows?
Outstanding, y'all.
Because we might be outside the Garden on Tuesday if they're playing the Cavaliers, and we're going to have you. So we'll see. It might be less than a week.
I'm down for that.
All right.
Oh, I'm down for that. Also, I did promise Quinta Brunson that I would share this. She has an economic take on why Knicks fans are able to take over at Xfinity Center, which I really did appreciate from her.
She knows Philly well. Yeah.
She does. She's a native. She's like, look, here's the deal. Philly's actually one of the poorer cities in the U.S.
Okay.
New York, according to her story at least, is the number one richest, right? Okay, fine, we'll go with that. She's like, Philly people can't afford those tickets anyway, and then they get raised for the playoffs, and then you got rich people from New York that come down because it's closer. It just makes so much sense. I did appreciate her thoughtfulness. She's a true sports fanatic. And I said, girl, you're just going to have to be better, though, because until then, right,
because if you don't have as much money and you know the tickets are kind of a mistake, you're going, I'll spend the money if they're worth it, but not when you know they have no heart and they don't believe they can win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah, Eagles fans aren't, Eagles fans aren't, or I should say just Philly fans who have Eagles tickets aren't going to do the same thing.
No, because they believe in that team and they've given them reason to.
Yeah,
different.
So I was like, I really appreciate this exchange with you. If you ever want to cast me on Abbott Elementary as Ava's cousin,
there you go.
Sports Day, let me know.
Thanks, Monica.
Have a good week, Monica. Enjoy.
Schnurred there a little bit.
I love it.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
That was the Monica McNutt Report. It's brought to you by Calandra's Bakery. Just 4 simple ingredients and still made by hand since 1962. Available fresh daily at your local supermarket. And BetMGM. Own your moment. Make it legendary. Download the BetMGM app today. Please get
the whole thing. The season will be a failure.
False.
I think we're talking about a Knicks team that hasn't been to the finals since the 90s and hasn't won a championship since the 70s. So it's a long time.
So success if you get to the finals.
I think obviously you want to win, right? There's no moral victories in professional sports. But I do think when you're looking at the tenure of the New York Knicks, the goal was always to get to the finals. And if you get to the NBA finals and you lose to the reigning champs per se, let's say it's Oklahoma City that you face, and you lose to the reigning champs, you lose to the reigning MVP, I don't know if you can say the season is a failure. If anything, the season was a success because you did exactly what this team was constructed to do. If you look every single season, this team has advanced in some way, shape, or form. They got to the conference finals. The goal was to get back to the conference finals and to advance further. Now, if the question was rather the conference finals, then yes, it would be a failure. But the NBA finals, absolutely not. The Knicks get to the NBA finals, even if they lose and they compete. If they get swept, we could be looking at it a little crazy. But if we compete and it's an actual competitive series and they still don't come out on the winning end, I guarantee you cannot find a Knicks fan walking this green earth that would tell you it was a failure.
Sounds like Noah's itching to answer here. What do you think?
Well, because I agree. I think it's ridiculous to think that getting to the finals would be considered a failure. Like, you don't fail the bar exam and someone says you're a failure. You got into law school, you graduated from law school, you struggled the first time you got to the bar exam. No big deal. Like, you look at why the Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau. They fired him because they didn't get to the NBA Finals last year and they wanted to get over the hump versus a Pacers team that I still believe to this day, the New York Knicks last year were better then, but they were not better coached then. So when I think about what's happening in New York, like Ashley said, just getting to the NBA Finals, understanding what's awaiting you in the Western Conference, whether it's the Spurs or the Thunder, who would both probably be favorites. I know the Thunder would be an overwhelming favorite. I'm not sure exactly if the Spurs would be favored over New York, but I think when you think about it in that context, like winning the Eastern Conference has been the minimum that the New York Knicks needed to achieve, and the moment they do that, this season is a massive achievement, given that they haven't been there in over 25 plus years. So I think that, if they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals again, definitely going to be a problem. But I think they're a clear-cut favorite, and this is definitely New York's year. So
you have said false to everything so far. You guys have agreed. Let's go to our third true or false question. You mentioned OKC, the overwhelming favorite to win it all again.